All right, 3, 2, 1, go. This is Jesse. We're going to talk a little bit about Diablo 2 Resurrected. I've already gone through most of this, but I'm just going to go through it again on video. Two things. We're going to go through this page that shows the highlights of the patch, aka what Blizzard plans on doing. And then we're also going to go through the new runewords that have already been announced this month. So the first thing to be aware of is that this game, is over 20 years old, and it hasn't received a patch since, I want to say it's like 2013 or 2011 or something. So it's been years since the game has been touched. Blizzard, largely just left it alone. But with the Diablo 2 Resurrection and the new facelift it got, it received enough of a player base and enough attention, and I assume enough revenue, for Blizzard to suddenly start taking a closer look at it, more of an interest in it. And as somebody who played the game while it was kind of in a dead zone, I played on private servers, it is interesting to see an old game basically come back. Diablo 2 is my favorite game of all time. I've thought about it a lot. I've kind of debated over it, but it is my favorite game of all time. I like the ARPG genre. I like that it was, monumental. It made so many steps forward compared to its predecessors. Plus, just from a nostalgia, personal perspective, I put more hours into Diablo 2 than I want to say any other game. I think Dota 2 may be close, but all right. So here we go. We're gonna run through this. So the first thing that they talked about is resetting the ladder, which for Path of Exile players and private server players like myself, the initial reset of a Diablo 2 ladder or an ARPG ladder is kind of the most thrilling time, especially if you're someone who likes to play in a trade league, you play all together online. I don't really play that much single player. Really, the passion of it is getting as far as you can, as quickly as you can. It's almost like a race. But it's a race as a group. You can play with 8 people in a ladder reset, which I've done in private servers a lot. Highly recommend that. I think it's a lot of fun, even if you're a beginner. So I'll be playing the hardcore expansion ladder. This is pretty straightforward. They talk about roughly when they're going to release the ladder. It's going to come alongside this new patch. So not that big of a deal. They mentioned that they're going to make new runewords. But here's the interesting part. The class balance changes. So I've been watching a lot of Artosis stream StarCraft Brood War, and that game also received a visual update, but the game really hasn't received any balance updates. And it's interesting that the state of the game is so it's so refined and defined and not rigid but known. It's just fact. Oh, this type of class doesn't scale well, or this type of class is just really weak, it just doesn't do enough damage. This type of class, if you're trying to go this route, etc., etc., people basically have figured the game out. So I think that this is already an exciting thing as a player who's been playing this for a long time, regardless of whether I think that they're going to make the right balanced decisions. I'm sure I would make slightly different decisions. Just the fact that anything is changing, it's still interesting. It adds something. It adds a little flavor. Also, I'm reminded it wasn't 2013, 2011. It was actually 2010 when this game received changes. So 12 years ago. Pretty remarkable. So the Amazon, I think they're going to improve bow stuff. I really don't play Amazons that often, but traditionally the Javelin skills are super strong, the lightning ones. Assassin, I think they're going to try to improve the melee martial arts kicks in type stuff, because that's generally pretty weak. And everyone just plays the traps. Barbarian, likewise, pretty much every melee class in this game is just weak. It's because you have a single target, an even whirlwind. Even though you target multiple things, it's still just not that strong. You need to get a lot of gear in order to make it even playable. But honestly, if you actually want speed farming, speed clearing, you basically have to use a caster class. I mean, there's just no contest. But the Barbarian has the find item skill, which is extremely strong if you're in an environment that doesn't use no drop. So Druid, this is the one that I have to say that I was more keenly interested in than the other ones. Fire druids have such interesting skills. Like visually, they're so interesting, and conceptually, it's like, wow, I wish that this was stronger, but it's just so weak compared to the other caster classes. And they're trying to beef those up. I probably won't bother with a druid summoner. I think it's a little bit dull, but fire-based druid skills do seem to be interesting. I mean, at least I'm interested in seeing what they do to that. Probably will try that. Necromancer, they're going to try to buff the golems and the magic skills like Bone Spear and Bone Spirit. Generally, those skills scale poorly once you get to like hell mode stuff. I mean, sorceresses, blizzards and stuff just has more damage, frankly. More damage, more area of effect, and so on. Paladin, I think Paladin is already a really busted class, but they're going to try to buff some of the skills that are not that well used. I think Paladin is fine. It has the best melee class. It literally is the best at killing Ubers, so it's the best at, like, clicking down a bad guy, a boss. And it also has the best AoE clear in the game with hammers. So, like, you know, they don't need help. Sorceress, kind of the same. Super OP class. I mean, is objectively the best class in the game. And they're going to try to buff underused skills. I mean, not that cool. And then they talk about new rune words, but that's what we're going to go through the last part of this video, go through the new rune words. So we'll just sum this part up. I'm happy. Happy, pleased, thumbs up, approval from me. It's all good. But rune words. Unbending Will. Fal Io Ith Eld El Hell. So one of the things they talked about was using runes that are not used that often, that are not that popular. And this is a good example because Fal and Io generally are just not that popular. There's like a couple of rune words that use them, but those rune words are not popular, aka they are not popular. So it's nice that they're going to find another use for these rune words. I mean, these runes. This is a two-handed weapon, I want to say, or like a two-handed sword, or maybe a one-handed sword, or a melee weapon. You can put these into certain gear sets, but I think the point of this is they're trying to buff melee classes such as kicks in based stuff, but also really barbarians specifically, I think. And if you're trying to go like Zeal Paladin, or if you're trying to go like, God forbid, you're trying to go like a wolf, like a werebear or whatever, Lycan, whatever, Druid. I guess this is for you. I don't ever see myself using this rune word. The caster classes are still super OP. Sorry. Wisdom. So this is one that really is like specifically catered towards two things. One is mercenaries. So Act 1 mercenaries use a bow, and being able to pierce is pretty clutch. I mean, it literally like doubles the damage or whatever. But I actually think that this probably is trying to replace the Razortail belt that gives Amazon's Pierce. So this is more like a bow-based Amazon person would use this, or bow crossbow skills. They'd probably use this. Pull Ith Eld, these are not terribly difficult runes to find. But yeah, this is interesting. This is another one, ultimately, I don't think I'm going to use. I just am not interested in playing a boson, or crossbow. But it is interesting nonetheless. And maybe the Act 1 mercenaries gain so much popularity that this actually becomes relevant for them. Even though a lot of these stats don't matter to them at all, like mana stuff. But anyways, Mist. So this is the level 9 concentration aura. They talked about giving other rune words auras. The Act 2 Desert Mercenaries have the pole arms, which are largely OP because of the auras that they provide. They provide insight, they provide might, even just as a base mercenary, they provide might, but also there's another very strong rune word that provides concentration. There's another one that provides, well, the point is that they're strong. Infinity obviously provides negative resists on your mercenary, which is super huge. It's like an in-game item for a mercenary. So basically this is like a level 9 concentration aura is like a, hey, you can actually use a Act 1 bow mercenary because they have auras now. Yay, congratulations. I still don't see myself using this because concentration is either for hammers, which you just use it yourself, or it's for melee, classes or right-click damage classes like bow, crossbow, maybe I don't know, like a whirlwind barbarian maybe would use this or something. But why would you just you should just use might? Use the might Desert 2 mercenary every time. I don't see this ever competing with that. The only thing that I read a little bit about was that possibly if you really want to play a bow or a bow skill, and you really want to play like split shot or ice shot or whatever these skills that are very unpopular because of their lack of damage, theoretically this bow could be good for you, right? Could be good. But I don't see myself playing that. And then finally, pattern Tolerant Thol. These are very, very accessible runes, like extremely inexpensive runes to find. You basically find them while you play and act like the story in normal mode. This is like a low level kicks in runeword. So kind of very specific runeword that caters to, like, I guess if you're in like normal mode and you want to actually damage things with your scissors guitar, you can use this. But yeah, definitely don't see myself using this. And then there is another one. So this is the one they don't have a picture of because nobody on the PTR has got a picture of it yet. But this is one that actually is the most interesting, which is a shame that it doesn't have a picture. Flickering Flame gives negative enemy fire resistance in a helmet, which is good for fire-based sorceresses if you're going to be kind of a memer about that. But really, more importantly, it's going to be way, way good for the fire druids, which I spoke about earlier is something that they're trying to buff. They're going to try to buff fire-based druids. And I'm like, so this is the rune word Flickering Flame, Nef Pol Vex. Really not that expensive runes. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable to get a Vex reasonably early. But this is a lot of mana. This is a lot of... I mean, anything with minus resist is like fundamentally better than most other gear slots because there's just not a lot of ways to do that in Diablo 2. It's not a mechanic that is nearly as utilized as the negative enemy resistance or penetration mechanic in Path of Exile, for example. So I do see myself using this. And then finally, Plague is actually an already known rune word that was never implemented in the game, but this Sham Shalom, I think this is a negative enemy poison resistance based weapon that has been known in the Diablo 2 world for a long time, but it just wasn't used in ladder, and they didn't implement it. And apparently there are tons and tons of rune words in the Diablo 2 files that people have gone digging for that don't exist, but the name of the rune word exists, which is interesting. So clearly they wanted to put more rune words in at some point. Blizzard pulled the plug, and here we are 12 years later finally getting new rune words. So all that to say, kind of my summary here is that I'm interested, I'm excited, I'm compelled. It's going to be... I do see myself playing this ladder reset pretty extensively. I have an alt account as well, so I can give myself battle orders and things of that nature, which I've done throughout the past 10 years or so while playing on the /Diablo servers, the private servers, which give you the benefit of having 4 accounts all logged into a single game to support. You basically can have support characters without using a bot or something to give yourself that free benefit. But the point is that whenever this ladder date is officially announced and released, I think it's going to be stiff competition between this and the Path of Exile expansion that's released in February. It's going to compete for my time. But I'm excited. I'm excited for Flickering Flame. I do still think I'm going to start with a Sorceress because you just have to. The teleport skill really is unbelievably better than any other skill in the whole game. So, but yeah, I'm excited about this. So that's kind of the end of the video. See y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching, etc. Bye.